Hello my loves and welcome back to another video here on this channel. It's been a really long time since I last posted a video and I deeply apologise, but there's just been so much going on. But I'm back, and I'm back with a Me Made May plan/pledge for 2024, and I will also be reflecting back on Me Made May 2023. Now I know this video is a little bit late in the grand scheme of May, but I have been really conscious this May and really given some thought as to my style, the fabrics that I have, how I want to be more mindful about my sewing habits, I suppose. Now I'm going to start with, I've written a few notes here, so I will have a little look at that as I go through the video just to remember what I spoke about last time. But I will kind of reflect on each of the points from last year, kind of address if I managed to achieve those and if that's something I'm still carrying forwards. And then I will go on to have a look at my new plans and pledges for the following year. So the first main one was not to hold on to nice fabrics. Now I do think I've been a lot better with this since last year. Now I've always loved buying fabrics, and when I love something, even if I don't have a plan for it, it will sit in my stash, and then every time I will look at it I will admire it and I will not want to cut into it because I just don't want to ruin it. And a lot of these pieces are often pieces that I find on sale, so sometimes you just cannot get your hands on them afterwards. So you know, there's just that mind block with it really. But I have been a lot better this year and I have tackled some of my really lovely fabrics. Now my thought process behind it is that, you know, I'd find so much more joy and happiness looking at the fabric every day or regularly in a garment form rather than whenever I'm passing in my sewing room. Probably don't look through my fabrics all the time and it's just there gathering dust. So I've made a really good point this year to really delve into those favourite fabrics. Now, one of them, let me show you. Now, if you have seen my last Me Made May video, if you haven't, I will pop it up here and down in the description box down below. But I spoke about this fabric and that I just really didn't want to use it because I just didn't want to ruin it. And I have made the dress that I said I would. Now, it's this really lovely jersey fabric. It's very lightweight, so perfect for summer, and it has a lovely hang to it. And I cloned one of my favourite wrap dresses and it's turned out really, really nicely. It's got a button on the inside, like a little loop situation there, a little tie on the side, almost these butterfly styled sleeves with some twin stitching, which I'm quite happy with how that turned out. And of course my Handmade with Me label. And yeah, I really love this. I've worn this so much. I do have some of this fabric left over, so I could make something else with this. If you have any ideas what I could make, do let me know. But I absolutely love this and I get so much wear out of this. I wear this to work, I wear this sort of, the weather's not quite as warm enough yet, but I did wear it a little bit last week. Again, in Me Made May, I did try to wear as many of my Me Made outfits as possible. I did pretty well, to be honest, so that's another box ticked on my list of being conscious. Now, the other dress that I've made, I'll show you the fabric first because it's really gorgeous. It's this really lovely viscose with black background, lovely pink and yellow flowers. And again, I'd held on to this for such a long time, but ultimately I decided I just needed to use it. And I made this lovely smocked bodice dress, which I wore to the Chelsea Flower Show last week. And it's got really lovely elasticated detail at the top, a lovely little elasticated sleeve, so you can kind of ruche up your arm. And yeah, it turned out really, really nicely. No zips, so it's super comfortable. And yeah, I'll pop some pictures up on the screen just so you can see what it looks like in full length. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. I only had 2 meters of this, so I did want to make it a little bit longer, but alas, I still managed to make a dress out of it. and yeah, I see myself wearing this so much more. Now the next point that I made last year was to make sure that I recycle and rethrift the pieces that I've already made in my wardrobe. I have been a lot more ruthless with what I've kept in terms of what I've made. If I've not worn it or I don't enjoy it, I've either sold it or donated it or recycled the fabric. But there are a few pieces in my wardrobe that there's just a couple little niggling things that make me not wear it as much. And instead of making new garments, I am really going to make the intention this year to be a bit more strict with it and to make the amendments with garments I already have, because there's some garments I've made with such beautiful fabrics, and yeah, it's just a waste for it to go away. I'll give you a couple of examples. So if you're a long time OG viewer of this channel, you remember this peppermint top that I made with a free sewing pattern. I'll link that little video down below if you want to check that out. But I love this fabric. It's a cotton and it's really lightweight. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say sheer, but you can see light coming through it. And yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if they sell this anymore, but I will double check and link it if they do. But I just don't wear it mainly because of the style. I feel like I would wear this a lot more if it was sleeveless. And I made it with a little sort of frill detail here. I just feel like I would get so much wear out of this design. So the bodice is grey. I've cinched it in a little bit because it was a little bit boxy for me. But yeah, I really love this and I think it's a really lovely fabric, so it would be a shame to not wear this. Now this is a lovely set of pyjamas that I made using a new look pattern, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will pop it down in the description box down below. But I absolutely love this. I've made this using, again, one of these lovely fabrics in my stash that I just didn't want to touch, but I managed to use it. It's got a lovely interlocked lining, not lining but reverse, and it's just a really lovely thick, good quality jersey, and this has gone through the washing machine quite a few times. Now there's not much that I would change with this, however I did make the trousers with pockets, which you would think is amazing. However, because I've made it from the same fabric as the outside and it's quite a heavy fabric, it's quite bulky and I find that puts me off. And also I just find that the pocket sits a little bit low. I would have liked it to be a bit higher if anything. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to remove the pockets and I'm just going to make it sort of a normal wide-legged pair of pyjamas. But yeah, again, these are just little things which are not hard to do. They don't take long, but it really would increase the wear that I'm getting out of these. Again, an ongoing aim from last year and coming through into this year as well is not buying any new fabrics and using what I already have. Now I do think I've been a lot better with this. I have purchased some fabric this year, which there is a fabric haul video coming up with those. However, they're all more summery floral prints which I don't have in my stash already, and I have plans for all of them. But for example, I did want to get a new fabric for the Chelsea Flower Show, but I did pull out that fabric that I really loved that had some florals on it, and I thought, no, this is perfectly fine, there is nothing wrong with this, it suits the vibe. I'm going to make my dress with this fabric, and it turned out absolutely perfectly, and I'm really happy with the choice because the fabric was perfect for the weather and it really suited the vibe of what we were going for the Chelsea Flower Show. So yeah, you can always use your imagination and use what you already have to make really lovely garments. And again, that's just something I want to carry through into this year as well, because I just don't want to be wasteful with the fabric that I already have. Now, moving on to my new resolutions, I suppose, my new aims for this next year. I want to start with my style and kind of thinking how that's evolved over the last year, because I do find that my fashion sense and identity with fabrics has changed a lot since I started sewing. And actually a lot of the fabrics that I have bought have been from my earlier sewing days. So I have really spent this month thinking about what I do enjoy wearing and how I can implement that in my sewing stash of fabrics. Now I have had a little look through my fabrics, but I do need to do a full-on declutter of them, which I will do with you guys. But I do need to have a clear out of some of the more louder pattern fabrics, because I just find that I don't wear them as often. I do find that I go for more muted colours and more simple designs, things like gingham, which is like what I'm wearing now. I like florals, but I do enjoy the more simple, good quality fabrics like knits, and obviously for things like pyjamas, I can be a bit more adventurous with the prints and the designs on those. But I do find that I like a more simple and sophisticated style, something that I can just throw on and just looks really good, and those are the bits that I reach for the most. So those are things that I'm going to be thinking about implementing in my wardrobe, and adding any essential pieces that are really versatile for the rest of my wardrobe as well. Now, another pledge for this year is to use more of my sewing patterns. Now, I have 2 quite large baskets of sewing patterns, and I must say I've maybe only used 1/8 of them, which is really bad. Sometimes when I find some really good ones, I just like to collect them, and as I just said, it's become a little bit more of a collection now. So I do need to be a bit more mindful with what I keep. I will be organising through those as well and being quite ruthless. I'm hoping to at least get it down to 1 or 1.5 baskets, which I know is really ambitious because I do like to have things on hand just in case, but I think the mentality has just led me to way too many sewing patterns. So I want all my sewing patterns in my stash to be my favourites, and if they haven't worked out for me, then I do just need to be ruthless and either donate it or get rid of it. So that's something that I will be really mindful of this following year. But while on the topic of not just sewing patterns, but also my trim and my yarn. Now, I have a lot of trim and I have a lot of yarn, and because I do a lot more dressmaking than quilting nowadays, I do find that I'm holding on to a lot of trim. Now, I do want to get into a bit more quilting this year because I've really been enjoying doing more pouches and bags and things more recently. So I do just need to have a sort through, know what I have, and get down to using them, because I just can't keep them forever, and just with the sheer volume of how many I have, it just doesn't make sense to hold on to them. And same with my yarn, I've done a huge declutter already on those, and I've kept some aside of my favourite colours, but I've also popped some aside for really specific projects that I want to do, so hopefully I can be a bit more intentional with those and work through them. So I think the general consensus with this point is I just need to have the pieces that I love in my stash. And although I love having the options and having these bits around, I just don't reach for a lot of them. So yeah, that's a really big one for me this year. Now, moving on to the next pledge, I do have a lot of scrap fabrics, and I did start making a little bolster stool thing, and my intention was to fill it with scraps. However, it was really heavy, which I hadn't really thought of, and I just didn't want it to be really quite heavy really. So I did decide to use some old cushions as stuffing, but I do need to either find other projects to use it for or recycle it at my local recycling centre, because it's just getting a little bit much and I just don't want to hold on to lots of scraps for a tiny little bit of fillings here and there. So maybe I need to separate my smaller scraps to my bigger scraps and just recycle the bigger scraps really. But if you have any good scrap saving ideas, then do let me know. But they're kind of those awkward sort of not quite too big and not too small sizes that I have for the scraps. So yeah, I just find them a little bit awkward. So let me know what you guys do with yours. Now, my final pledge for this year is to periodically look through my fabric stash. I think sometimes as well, with such a large quantity of fabric, I think you can just be so overwhelmed with what you have, and you can honestly just forget what you have. But I think if you periodically, maybe monthly or even seasonally, go through what you have, you can kind of pull out the bits that you think you're going to use that season and have it at the forefront so that you are aware of them. I'm very much a visual person, so if I can see my fabrics there, then I will be more likely to use it than when it's all kind of tucked away. So definitely that's going to be something that I'm going to do a lot more often, just to be able to keep on top of what I have, and that also makes sure that if I do get any new fabric, that I also am then aware of not buying anything too similar to what I already have. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope it gave you some ideas as well for you guys to consider for your year of sewing. I would love to know what your Me Made May pledges are for this year, so do leave them down in the description down below. I'm going to link my last year's Me Made May and my Make 9 for last year. And if you enjoyed watching this video, then I would love if you joined this community, so do subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified for any future videos. So my loves, I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.